Do you own a 2.2 Land Rover? And do you have a restricted performance on your dashboard? I'm going to take you through the steps to diagnose this on your vehicle. So first things first, we will be checking the diagnostics to see what it's telling us. And then what I'm going to do, we're going to take it up in the air and we're going to show you how to fix your car without taking it to the main dealers. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this Think Tool 391 and we're going to see what the car is telling us. We're going to be using the Smart Scan function on this tool. And what that will do, it will pull all the VIN data and it will match it to what manufacturer we will be going into. And as you can see, we have got a VIN scan going on the machine and it will tell us what model of vehicle that we are looking at, which you can see here is the L538 2.2 Evoque, and it should give us the description of what the vehicle is. And there you go. So you can see we have got an Evoque. It's the 2.2 diesel, which is a DW12, and it's the L538 with the VIN number. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to do a scan on the vehicle to see what we've got. And then now that's finished, we can use the reporting function. And what it will do, it will tell us every fault code that is going on with this Land Rover. Now, as you can see here, we have got a P0046 19, which is the boost solenoid range performance. We've also got more boost issues with low and high range performance. To check what this is telling us, we are going to go into the live data on the vehicle. So we're going to go into the engine control module. And you can see here, it will tell you all the faults that we've got going on with that. So we'll enter that. And then we're going to look in the data stream. Because what we want to know is, what is the turbocharger actually doing? So we're going to go into the boost pressure measured position. And we're going to go with the boost position desired position. So this is what it's currently doing versus what the ECU or ECM is asking of it. So first things first, we're going to stick it into here and then we're going to use the graph function and then we're going to start the vehicle up. Start the vehicle up for us on idle. Right, and then what we'll do, I'm going to show everybody what the graph is doing on idle and then I'm going to ask you to rev it and just hold it for me, okay? So if we go back to the diagnostic machine, and you can see, once it zooms in, that we've got the measured position here. So this is what it's actually doing versus what we're asking of the vehicle. Jana, can you take it up to 2,000 RPM and hold it? There we go. So measured position's not moving, and the ECU is asking for a desired position here of 6%. It's not moving. So we know we have got an issue with either the turbo position or the actuation of the turbo. Right, we can turn that off. So because we have actually got a measured line on here, we know that we have got power and ground to the actuation. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see what the desired position or the measured position is. So we know we've got power and ground to that sensor, but we will check it when we're under there. We see an awful lot of these with restricted performance due to turbo issues. Now, lots of manufacturers, including, I think I do these on Mercedes, we do them on the 2.2 Transits, they suffer with a turbo actuator arm, which is actually electronic, as you can see here. And what happens is this seizes up and it stops working. So what I'm going to do, if you went to the main dealer, they're more likely to try and charge you for a whole turbocharger with the actuator, but you can buy these separately. So this little part here, not that expensive. You can buy them aftermarket, probably a lot more expensive if you bought it from the dealer, but I'm going to show you now where this is and how to change it. So let's jump in there.
I'm doing this as well.
Right, so now we've got it up in the air. Let me show you where it is before we start stripping it down, and then you'll know where you're starting from, okay? As you can you see that up there? It is literally just there. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to quickly just undo all the under tray, and then I'll show you the bolts we need to remove, and then let's get it stripped out. Dan is just taking out all of the 10mm bolts so we can access the underneath.
Oh, I poured straight down my arm.
That is a lot of water, isn't it? So you should be able to see this now. It sits just on the back here, and there's 3 8mm bolts, and there's that C clip that we need to remove, which has 2 spring clips, which I'll show you in the box. So when you buy the new actuator, it comes with a new, it's like a C clip, and then you have 2 spring clips in here. When you look up here, you'll be able to see the clip there, and you'll be able to see what we're talking about. So there is 3 8mm there, and we're going to get that taken off. New one switched on. Let's show you what we got. So the first thing we're going to be doing is just removing the spring clip off that C bracket. We have got some new ones, so if it does go ping, it's not the end of the world, but it does look like you can sort of get a pick in there and pull it off. But that has actually come off quite well, Dan.
I still have it in my fingers as well.
He still has it in his fingers. Well done, Dan. We're just using a ratchet 8mm spanner just to try and get those bolts loose enough so we can use the hand. There's 3 of them in total. That's it. So the 8mm are coming out. Little quarter drive ratchet and a 8mm ratchet spanner. But you can see it does look quite difficult to replace that arm which sits on the turbo actuator. So we'll see how much room we've got to replace that. Otherwise, I'm assuming a lot of people probably just unclip it from the actuator itself and then just stick it back on with the new clips. So we'll see how much room we've got when we take the actuator out itself.
So I'll put a bit of pressure on the back of this, by the way, pulling the turbo towards me.
Yeah.
Towards the outside of the car.
That is the difficult one, Dan, isn't it? Yeah. It's the one that's right at the top and it's sort of buried in. So the 8mm ratchet spanner is going to be your friend in this, but like Dan said, you sort of hold it from the other side just to try and put a bit of tension on it so that the ratchet spanner will actually ratchet. That's it. And now it's starting to move quite nicely there, Dan, isn't it?
I think it's off.
It's off. And so you've left that bolt in situ at the top to be able to just put the new one on and screw straight into it. Yeah. You can see it needs a little bit of lube. It is quite tight, that, Dan, isn't it?
I don't remember it being tight, though.
That's it.
Is it? No, yeah.
There we go. So the arm is actually off now. Those bolts are undone. So all we've got to do now is unplug the electric plug on the back, and then that will be out. So all we're going to do, Dan's just going to use a little pick just to release the arm on the back of the plug, and then that plug should come off the actuator. There we go. So just using a little pick. Right, so Dan's just removing that now, and we're going to bring it through from under the engine. There we go. That is the actuator removed. Now, I don't know if this is a scientific approach to checking these, but listen. Can you hear that? Now listen. Now listen. Let me know. Is that a scientific approach? We're going to be checking it now on the diagnostic machine. We'll get this fitted, and then I'll show you what the actuation position is versus what we're after, and hopefully we'll have a match. All right, as you can see on here, that C clip is very, very difficult to change, and you don't have a lot of room. Can you see that? So I personally wouldn't be changing that. I would literally just be sticking the new actuator on and using the clip that you get provided with it. So I'd stick that, I would still use that C clip or the C bracket arm on the new actuator, because that could give you a world of pain if you take that spring clip off and then you can't get it back on without removing the turbo. So my advice is to use that unless there is play or unless the hole is elongated, but we can see clearly on here that the arm itself is actually fine. So save yourself an awful amount of time and potentially issues by reusing it as long as there's no issues with that metal bracket.
So while we're here, we're going to just check the turbo for its sticky vanes, because we don't want to fit a new actuator and then find that the vanes are stuck. So just by taking hold of the bracket, we can move it up and down the same way that actuator would do, and we can see that there is no sticking there at all.
Yeah, so we can clearly see, Dan, that we've got no issues with the turbo. Just a case now of getting that actuator fitted, and then let's see what we've got on the live data.
Yep.
Let's get the new one fitted, Dan. Same as what we did. We are going to do basically role reversal. You might have noticed that Dan has left a bolt up the top here in situ, so we should be able to push the actuator up from the rear and hopefully get a start on that bolt without actually having to take it out and put it back in again. So first things first, Dan's feeding the actuator arm through and then lining up the bolt holes. Can you see how he's lining up the bolt holes? There we go.
That's how it was, wasn't it?
Yep. And then we've got one bolt at the back, which was the hardest one to do, which he's still struggling to get his hands on. Dan, what about sticking a bolt in the first bit just to hold it for you? So we'll stick a bolt in the easiest part to get on, and then we will deal with that horrible bolt, which is sort of recessed in behind the turbo itself with the actuator, but one there to hold it.
I'll stick the other one in as well.
We stick the other one in at the bottom to hold that as well, and then we'll tackle that top bolt with the ratchet spanner.
I wouldn't tighten them up now,
no,
because you want to move a little bit when you're trying to find the hole for that
yeah, that's it.
A little bit of play in it.
Right, so Dan's going from the back of the engine up through where the exhaust goes with one hand, and we're just tightening them bolts up before we get the ratchet spanner on there, just to try and get them to bite. It is very fiddly to do, but it's definitely not a difficult job, and definitely going to save you quite a bit of money going over into the main dealers for sure. So we're going to tackle that one first, which was the hardest one to get to, with an 8mm ratchet spanner. We'll get that tightened up first, because the other ones were fairly accessible with a normal ratchet on a quarter drive down, wasn't it? That's it. Starting to ratchet now, so it's getting a little bit tighter. There we go.
Don't go too mad. Just
nip them up. Be switching across to the quarter drive with the ratchet for the other two. That's it. And then with the spring clip for the C-clip, we're going to use a brand new one, because obviously it's a spring clip for a reason. We've now removed that spring clip, so we'll be putting the brand new spring clip that come from the packet to make sure that it's still nice and tight when we go back on. So there's no issues with reusing a spring clip. Not that we have many issues with spring clips, but just in the interest of making sure that it stays good. Dan has quickly checked that arm as well to make sure there's no play or elongation in that hole. So we'll get the new clip on, Dan will get it plugged in, and then we'll see what the live data is telling us. That's it. Quite like them tool, Dan. I like that tool. Let me just show these people what we use for that. See, this is the tool that we just used for that spring clip. Can you see that? It's got slight cutouts on each end, and it just works really well with hose clips, spring clips. So I'm just showing you that, guys, because I think that's a really good tool that Dan uses. I'm going to go through the driver's side wheel arch, and we've got that plug there. See that? And then just clips into there, and you'll hear it click. That's it. Give it a slight pull just to make sure, wiggle test to make sure we're in. And then that, as you can see, through the wheel arch, I'll put my hand through here and you can get on it quite nicely. So that's that done. That's it. Right, so now that the actuator is fitted, we've got Jana in the car. She's just activated the ignition. We're going to go back onto the Think car, Think tool, 391, and we're going to see what we've got. So you can automatically see that we've got the straight line with the ignition on. So now what we're going to do, Jana, can you start it up for me? And what we're looking for is the graph traces to be the same. We will see a slight difference between activation and what the position is, but as you can see on the graph, we've got an identical line. Can you give it a rev for me? Can you see this? Whereas before we had a straight line where it was not doing anything. Now, if you look at that graph versus this graph, it's absolutely identical. That's brilliant. Right, if you could turn that off for me. Now what we're going to do, just going to go back in, clear the fault codes, start it up, take it for a drive and see if that restricted performance is fixed. So we are now back from the road test. Let's do a smart scan using the Think car and we will see if that restricted performance has now disappeared because it's pulling lovely on the road. As you can see, we are green across the board. If we go into the engine control module, look at that. We've got no fault codes. So this one is ready to go. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed the video that we have brought to you, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. We've got lots of videos. And then look at Dan, look at him. You can tell who's the worker here, can't you? Look, I've moisturised my hands. But if you like the videos, guys, do not forget to like, share and subscribe. We are on a massive up climb for trying to get subscribers over to YouTube, TikTok now over 10,000. Yeah, I know, God, 10,000, 11,000 now. I think I looked this morning. We've got Facebook on 85,000. We've got YouTube into 11.4. So it costs us a bit of time to do this, but we don't want you getting ripped off. So the least you could do for us is head over, subscribe to the channel, and we can bring you more videos and more laughter and more of Dan's hair. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe.